We are recording. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Provider Marketing. Thank you all for coming. And as you come in, please feel free to put your questions in the chat box. We want to be able to answer all of the questions that you might have this evening. I have with me some very special people who know a lot about provider or physician marketing. There are two terms that you will hear interchangeably: provider marketing and physician marketing. Physicians are providers, but providers don't necessarily have to be physicians. We use those two terms interchangeably, and we'll find out more tonight who these people actually might be and what this means as a strategy for your finding leads for Medicare business and doing it compliantly. I put this picture in the PowerPoint because I thought it was very, very interesting that on Instagram last week, this picture actually got more views and more likes than any of the other pictures that I had posted. And you know that in Instagram, it's the picture that captures the person's attention, and then they read what the post is about. So I could not figure out why would someone, really take the time to want to look at this picture further. And I guess it's the uniqueness of the picture. It's an old car. It's obviously not functioning because it's up on blocks, it's on bricks. So that probably steered the curiosity of everyone to find out, well, with this picture, I wonder what the post is about. So I brought that up just to say that if you have not heard of provider marketing or physician marketing, and you have not used or thought about provider marketing or physician marketing, let your curiosity take you into a different area of marketing, because what this is all about is the strategies that you can use to compliantly generate leads. Leads means business, leads means sales. So this is what it's all about. Let your curiosity lead you into new areas. So with me tonight, my guests are Liana Vila, who's the Medicare sales agent. She's also the author of Are You Prepared for a Successful Medicare AEP? What are Your Greatest Fears? And that book is available in English and Spanish. Liana, will you tell us more about yourself, please?
Sure, Faye. Again, my name is Liana Vila. I've known Faye for a couple of years. We started out together at Humana as captive agents, and I've been in this industry as a captive agent and as a 1099 broker. I'm going on 18 years. And actually, physician marketing is one of the things that I enjoy the most. And it's really helped me build my book of business and develop pretty strong relationships with different doctors' offices here in the Central Florida area. So I do touch upon that in my book because I think if it's something that you enjoy doing and you think it will improve your sales, especially for AEP, then it's something that you need to consider starting to do at the beginning of the year, all year long. So when AEP comes, those relationships are solid. And then, of course, the referrals and the leads start coming in.
Very good. Thank you. Thank you so much. So it's good to know that you've built a good portion of your business based on those relationships. And we're going to hear more about that as we go on. My next guest is John Dubas. Dubas. Did I say it right, John?
As long as they don't call me late for dinner, that'll work. It's due, boss.
Okay. So, and I said, I had this mental block. I said earlier I said when I get ready to introduce him, if just in case I don't say it right, I'm just going to say
There you
John,
go.
Vice President Agent Success at Premier Senior Marketing. John, tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do.
You bet. I was first licensed in the state of Texas in 1985. Did a number of different things through the first course of my career, including being a captive agent for Prudential Insurance, selling life insurance back in the late 80s and early 90s. I flew out of the back of a Jeep, had an auto accident, and decided that I was aware of the need for life insurance, became acutely aware of the need for health insurance. And I've always been a bit of a history buff, so concentrating on the senior market seemed logical to me. I started as a captive agent for a company that United Healthcare purchased, a company called Pacificare, a long time ago, and was a captive agent until the funding for the Medicare Plus choice plans changed under the Clinton administration, kind of went away from a lot of areas. We went in North Texas from 32 reps to 4. And during a little 2-year hiatus, I recruited physicians for as a medical headhunter, came back as a captive agent, and then went into the broker channel with United Healthcare, served as a regional for the special needs plans in the central region, and then for the overall portfolio for the Western United States. Left after 17 years or so with those organizations, ran a Medicare FMO program here in the Dallas area. And then 3 years ago, changed to my current position with some of the folks that I kind of grew up with Premier Senior Marketing. They're out of Nebraska, as as you can see from behind me with the sports paraphernalia, I'm a Nebraska native. And we do a lot of different things for training in different areas and using our shared experiences to hopefully positively affect how people reach out, create relationships, grow their own lead sources. It's the old give a man a fish, he'll eat a day, teach him to fish, he'll eat forever. Some of us eat more than others. So a varied career, and one I enjoy a lot because I particularly enjoy the senior market.
Thanks, John. I thought that these two individuals would be, or these two professionals, I should say, please excuse me, these two professionals would be the best people to share with you all who may or may not have considered provider marketing or physician marketing as one of the ways to build a relationship and to develop continuous streams of win win situations with the particular providers. So, moving right along, I think we're going to talk about that there are many ways that you can market yourselves in order to sell Medicare plans. And these tips are generally around building those relationships to sell Medicare uh, plans because it's more with the health side of the seniors, not the life side. Although you may hear something that you can use if you're selling life insurance as well. But then, of course, once you have a Medicare customer, you can always cross sell for life, dental, and other products. So, most agents who are settled in how they're conducting their business use one or two strategies consistently. And those are the one or two that over time they found that in their particular market or in the area that they want to work or in the states that they want to work, those are the strategies that bring the best results. And that's what you're looking for. The strategies that are going to bring you the most return. So many agents, when they're starting out, will have a lot of different strategies. And they'll try a little of this and a little of that and a little of this and a little of that and a little of this and a little of that. And that's all it is, a little of this and a little of that. But once you find the strategy or strategies that work best for you, those are the ones that you want to partner, not just with your FMOs, your uplines, your carriers, but you want to develop those strategies to the fullest. You want to put your most energies into those strategies. Now, that does not mean that you're not going to do grassroots marketing, you're not going to do community outreach, you're not going to do those things. It's just find the ones and pick the relationships where you're going to get the most bang for your money. Find out what works best for you. So let's start off, Liana and John. Let's talk about what is a provider, because we do use the word provider and we use the word physician interchangeably. So what actually is a provider? Who is a provider?
I would say a provider could be pretty much anybody in the provider directory that you have for your Medicare Advantage plans. I mean, it could be pharmacies, a lot of the opticals, where if you're working with a plan that offers good vision benefits, you could develop a relationship with that. Uh, the labs, imaging centers, um, physical therapists, occupational therapists, those would, in my book, those would all be providers. And then when you're looking at physicians, it's mainly your primary care physicians, your specialists, dental offices, which could fall, I guess, under either provider or physician. Those would be the main ones that I could think of. Maybe the gyms for silver sneakers. Those are all different provider options that,
Okay.
the key is just to develop a relationship. That's the most important part.
Okay.
I might
Those are some
suggest
good.
that if you look at it as who is a provider, look at it from who's billing either Medicare or the carrier with whom they contract for medical services. So in addition to the physicians, be they primary care or specialist, you also roll in hospitals because they have opportunities for you to market as well within those facilities. But when we look at this as a Medicare Advantage agent in many circumstances, I would suggest also looking at those organizations that might cause you some challenges when it comes to keeping your book of business in place. And a lot of times when you run across a provider who's billing either Medicare or the carrier organization, the ones that can cause you some challenges include home health carriers, home health care providers, and DME carriers. And those are also subsets that aren't approached quite as much. In the old days, when we had health fairs every weekend, you'd run across a whole bunch of them out looking for business as well. But it gives you a kind of a dual purpose in that area where you have an opportunity to market a little more non-traditionally. And those organizations are in the homes of your prospects and your clients a lot more often than you are. If you look at just the doctors, I have seen in a couple of different instances how people will point to both primary care and specialist. And for me, a recommendation I would have in that regard is depending upon what type of subset of the Medicare market that you're pursuing. If you're looking at a more affluent type of prospect, many times including the specialist can be very helpful for you, particularly the ones that you hear the name of a lot, that are referred to a lot or have an active practice. The work that we've done in the dual special needs area, in many cases, we concentrate more on the primary care physicians because we have a greater access there. I haven't seen many people successfully work on the mental health side. and utilize those providers as well. Because one, it's more of a challenge for us to find out who they are a lot of times to properly explain it on the plan. But two, they tend to be less of a referral source and sometimes counterproductive in that area. But the big thing with all of them is look at who do you see most frequently, who has great traffic. So that does include the dentist a great deal. And you actually see in some areas where the carriers that are doing or concentrating or putting marketing effort into the dual population, they really, really pursue the dentists and the opportunities that are there. They have a lot of material that can help you in that area. And then as an independent agent, obviously, if you contract with multiple organizations, you can utilize all the resources that are available and include your individual programs you might have for dental. So it might take you beyond just the Medicare beneficiary. It could include their family or the rest of the practice with that dentist. And we all recognize that you don't see a dental maintenance organization as frequently or as tightly held as you do in the medical arena. So I would look at who all bills Medicare as a provider because it gives you a range to
Hi,
do.
this is Kimberly with the credit card department. I'm just following up with you in regards to your outstanding.
It needs to do a mute.
We can't compete with
Okay.
the credit card calls.
Thank you, John and Liana. I think you've each given us some ideas of where we might find the people that we can call either providers or we can call providers, whether they be physicians or non-physicians. So there can be other providers, and as John mentioned, they're the people who you know are billing your plans. So for me, going to a new area, I would start with the plan that is most familiar in the area. So I'm just going to throw out an example, not to give credence to one HMO or Medicare Advantage plan over another, but let's say it's a United Healthcare plan. So I would go to United Healthcare's website, find a provider, and I put in the zip code where I want to market. And in that zip code, I would start with, when it asks for the type of provider I'm looking for, I would start with the primary care providers. And once that list comes up, and I probably would do it within 20 miles or so, once that list comes up, then I would go into each of those providers to check where they are affiliated. Because some of them in some markets, you know, the primary care physicians are all managed by an MSO or a management service organization. So it may be a little different way of approaching those particular providers than the ones who are contracted directly with the carrier. So that's a key that you would need to do in your research to know how you're going to actually get into this office. Knowing who the MSO is, sometimes it makes more sense to go directly to the MSO. Since Liana and I have worked in those markets where this is how it's mainly the primary care doctors are controlled, I'll ask Liana if she has any comments on how that works for you or doesn't work for you.
Well, Faye, for me, like I said, I've been in this business doing provider marketing for probably 15, 16 years. I have always focused on physician marketing. I basically work with primary care physicians. I have tried doing some of, pharmacies and labs and dentists and home health. And for me, what's worked best is physician marketing. Now, in the Orlando area, we have some of the large MSOs, some of the large groups that have multiple office locations, and the providers are basically salaried employees. I personally tend to stay away from that, and I focus more, which has worked for me, on the smaller offices where it may be a one or a two doctor office, and maybe the spouse is the office manager, and they have more of a vested interest in that. That's what I have found. So, and then the key from there is just developing the relationship. I always get the cell phone number of either the office manager, the doctor, or the front desk. And I am constantly in touch with these people. At least once a week, I'm texting them something, either TGIF because it's Friday, or Happy Monday, or anything that, remember, I'm here to help your clients. So I am constantly trying to do things to make their life easier in their office. Any issues that they have with their patients could be on a specific plan. And one thing I always tell them, look, what plans do you work with? And I make sure that I am contracted with all of their carriers. So they really don't have a need to go to any other agent, because I can offer them all of the plans for all of their members.
That's an ideal situation. If you're a broker and you represent multiple carriers, that is an ideal situation to build a relationship. And I would agree, and I think John would agree also, that the practices, this is why you're looking at each individual doctor to see what company or what organization they're with. And if they are direct contracted to the carrier, you know that you can go into that office and start to build a relationship, find out if someone else is there. Be courteous, because if there's another agent there in the office working, you are not there to remove that particular person, because you would not want that to happen to you. But you do want to find out if no one's been there, no one's coming there. They may say to you, "Oh, we had somebody who came by last year, but I haven't heard from her since, AEP." There's your doorway, that you got your foot in the door. And as Liana mentioned, you have to be consistent in contacting them. Remember, they're not in the business that you're in. You're in business to make business. And in order for you to do this, you are the one who has to work at it. They're in business to do medical delivery, medical health care delivery. So that's their job. And when they're doing their job well, and then you're doing your job well, you are bringing customers from the community that they never heard of into their office. And in turn, what should I expect from that physician's office, John?
Well, I think a lot of it too, in our neck of the woods, we've got a little different shade of lipstick on the pig. We call them an IPA, an Independent Physician Association. And what we're seeing in this area, much as what you're seeing with the news on one company buying another, one agency buying another, hey, I'm an integrity guy, kind of. What we're seeing then is an integration where a lot of the health plans are also purchasing the doctor groups. And so you're seeing a number of the physicians that are actually employed by the insurance company, one or another. And that circumstance can help you in some areas, because those medical groups, if they're large enough, they have their own marketing arm. And in many cases, they'll work with you to help market to that particular group. You may be assigned an office or whatever. So it tries to do away with some of the challenges that Faye mentioned with, okay, I'm going in there, there's somebody already in there. If they're absent for the most part, it's a little easier. If they're not, you still want to possibly create that relationship. And you'll recognize that if the doctor's office is displaying the material of any one organization and you're contracted with several, I'm talking about different MA companies, and you know that physician is available with more than one company and they're only showing one's material, regulations say that if those materials are supplied to them, they have to display them. And a lot of times the offices will go, I don't want 17 carrier information pieces on my noteboard or whatever. That's one of the advantages you have as an independent agent, because you have generic material that can help you market to all of them. And it's an approach then that when you talk to the docs, and you don't necessarily speak with the physicians as frequently as you do office administrators or the insurance coordinators or whatever it happens to be, you can set yourself up as the purveyor of information for multiple organizations. And so it gets you into different facilities as well. And it really makes you much more valuable. And I think on all of this, no matter what type of provider you're approaching or working with, be it a physician or whomever, our biggest advantage is our knowledge base where we can bring something of value. And as both Faye and Liana have mentioned, do it consistently. It's like an exercise program. You do it just once, you're going to feel the pain, you're not going to see the results. You do it consistently, you get in shape and you get the benefits out of it. And doing so then means that you kind of set up in your mind not only the initial approach, but what am I going to bring when I visit with them frequently? Obviously, you have the keep touch things like Liana mentioned with, thank God it's Friday. Did we live through another week? But it's also then, hey, what we're seeing in some of the other provider offices is some challenges with people being able to afford their medications. So what do? You're bringing your knowledge of the low income subsidy extra help programs, the Medicare savings programs, and taking a lot of that detail out of the office, because a lot of them, they don't know. I was in a Walmart. Boy, can I actually use the word Walmart? I did, too late. In there picking up a
Say it
prescription
quietly.
myself, and one of the farm techs didn't know the difference between Plan B and Plan D coverage. And you're kind of careful about what you say, but I didn't approach the lady in the motorized cart. I did approach the farm tech afterwards and tell her, well, she's after diabetic supplies. That's not a Part D covered incident or coverage anyway. You can ingratiate yourself into that provider's office by your knowledge base. And that's why, as we stay up on all the detail that we go through, and hopefully in the next week or so, we have the 2021 details for MSP income and asset limits. They aren't quite out yet, no matter what some folks say, they're seeing 2020 stuff yet. But that gives us another excuse to, on this visit, I'm going to talk about this. On this visit, oh, come on, Liana, you can't compete with the pets. I'm out here, It's sorry, teasing, but it gives you then an opportunity to approach from what is the greatest need of the person that you're talking with, and when you're discussing different things, if you think about it, a lot of the doctor's offices got caught up in the whole, I'm going to give out some samples and some of the other things that are there. If they're part of a medical group, when they're giving out samples, it's difficult for them to document that they're taking care of and maintaining the regimen that's being prescribed for their patients. And it kind of throws off some of their test scores. And depending upon how those doctors are compensated, that could be a crucial part of their income. So we need to look at it from that incident or from that instance, but also consider, and this is something I picked up when I was recruiting doctors in the northeast part of the country, where you have to look at their payer mix as well, because we have to do what's right for the doctor. We have to do what's right for the patient. We obviously want to do what's right for us, but not everybody fits one particular solution. So if we're going in there only with the thought of, I'm going to sell me some MA out of this office, you got to realize that as an independent agent, your ability to sell Medicare supplements can actually help you sell the MA, because they're going to have patients that don't fit into a network. They still need help. And those are normally the folks that are, I don't use this is a negative connotation, kind of a drain on the time that they have available. They take more time. And if they have someone like you that can go through all of their options and make certain that they're enabling that individual to pay their bills to the provider, but also provide the greatest services with, okay, you're not in an MAPD plan. We still need to evaluate the medications that you're taking. We can look at how we can address that need through the standalone PDP programs and a med sup. It's a smaller percentage that you'll see, but you'll also see providers that aren't part of a network. So it enlarges the base of the folks that you can approach. So more probably a long-winded answer than you were looking for, Faye, but that's what I got.
Yes, it was, Don. I almost forgot what my question was.
That's
And I
me. I
believe
like to
my
talk.
question was, now that we have a good idea of what we can do for the office by bringing in patients, new patients to the office and helping to grow the patient load of the office, what I wanted to know from either of you actually is, what expectations should we have? And before you answer, let me just say, I always make it a practice when I go in to initially start to develop a relationship with a provider, whether it be the dentist, the pharmacy. And I've gotten a lot of referrals from just being a pharmacy advocate. I did not have a stand there or a booth there or a kiosk, but just going into the pharmacy, taking lunch for the people in the pharmacy. And because some pharmacies, and I think, the company that you mentioned with the big W, some of them do close during lunch. So during that time, the manager is able to pull them all together for 20 minutes. And if I've ordered lunch for them, I can then explain to them the differences in the plans that are out there, what Part D is, and how it works, and what they should be listening for, um, in order to pass someone my card. But I always make it a point to let them know that I work in this area. So the people that I am enrolling, I will be telling them these are the pharmacies you should be using. Or these, if it's a provider's office, I make sure that everyone in the office knows that I work this area. I am in this area. I know where every pharmacy is. I know where all the specialists are located. So I will be sending customers and patients, my customers that I am enrolling into these plans, I will be enrolling them into your practice. So that they know up front that I'm not just there to get the handout from them. I am there to also help them to grow their practice. And many of the physicians will say that's what they need. They need help in growing their practice. So, as Liana mentioned about the smaller physicians, the ones who are just going into business for themselves, those are the ones who are going to need the most help. And those are the ones where you can get probably, I mean, I the since I've come back to Florida, I have one that I text him. If I don't get what I need from the front, from the young ladies at the front, I text him directly. And he texts me when he needs me. So that's the kind of relationship that you want to develop with the provider. And because then he's confident that if I have someone in that zip code or in that area or close to him, I'm going to enroll them in his office. And I'm confident that if someone comes in and they say, I don't like the plan I have, or I can't afford that, that he's going to say, here, take this card. So that's the kind of back and forth win-win relationship that you want to develop. So what I was looking for was, what is the expectation? How do you, or what should we expect when we're developing this relationship? What might you, as the agent, expect from the office?
And I'll jump in there really quickly on a butt in front of you and your good looking dog at this moment. I think a lot of times we have expectations of a microwave return or you're going to get something immediately. And a lot of times, because these providers are approached by a number of people like us, we have to prove our worth in certain circumstances. And if you're approaching it from a one single carrier type of approach, many times they want you to act as their interceder or however you want to phrase it as taking care of some of the issues. That, in essence, you don't want to take on that relationship. You need the contacts with the provider relations of that particular carrier, but you'll get some one-offs to begin with, and in certain circumstances, you may not get anything for a period of time, or you might be like, and I'm going to throw this up. You won't be able to see it, but this is actually a letter I received at the house I live in. I've been in this house for about 10 years, to a person that used to live here who was on Medicare 10 years ago. So we see in many circumstances the docs records may not always update, but they are permitted by the regulations of the marketing regulations that come out to do different outreach for their patients for different circumstances. And in doing so, they can, in a letter like that, designate a particular point of contact that can help them with questions. So this particular letter with a physician in the area in which I live, they were directing letters out to their patient base and asking them to call this agent with any questions that they have about their coverage. I recently got an email from a hospital that I was in not too terribly long ago with that same sort of approach, where if you've got questions, we've got people here that can handle it. Sometimes they'll send out a letter. They can do so with certain frequency according to regulations. Sometimes they make it more generic and then include it in their marketing of their organization saying, you have questions about your coverage, call this number. And they are manned by, in most circumstances, agents that are affiliated with that organization in one fashion or another. And they're using some kind of either Google numbers or whatever to track how effective that is. So you'll see a varied, long answer again, Faye, sorry, a varied approach as to what you'll get. Sometimes it's not much, and sometimes, boy, it could be more than you could actually handle. And that depends upon how you've approached them, how you've established the relationship, and they feel that they can trust you, because trust is a huge, huge component of this marketing uh, avenue. Because, well, gee, you got all the privacy concerns with HIPAA, you got the MIPA regulations we have to go through and deal with. So there are a number of things that you've got to basically address to establish who you are. It helps if you have a medical group, if it's a larger one, or like Liana says, as you develop that personal relationship, if it's the mother or the spouse or whomever that's at the front desk, as it is in some of the solo practitioner offices, creating that personal relationship and having them know that you're out there to help their people, that's the difference maker.
And that leads us into year round or AEP. And I think Liana touched on this earlier. Um, so for me personally, it does not make sense to go and try to build a relationship with an office for AEP.
Mhm.
This is a year round, and if you want to work your business and you are working your business year round, you need to start to develop that relationship tomorrow. So I've given you some ideas on how you can find out who are the physicians that you should start to work with. We've suggested that the smaller ones are the ones who are newer in practice. The ones who are not in the large groups, may offer a better opportunity for you. So pick the area that you want to work in. Do some research on the providers, the doctors that are there, but also look at all those other providers. Look at, there are plans that have $3,500 dental benefit. and the flyers are free. So use those flyers for the dental offices, and they can be customized with your information. All you got to do is go into the dentists that are in the network, let them know who you are. It's all about letting people know who you are and putting your brand out there, and that you would like to work with them. You'd like to be able to put the flyers in the office. You'd like to develop a relationship. Now, don't go overboard and go find 10 different places, and then it becomes difficult for you to keep up with those 10 places because you still have other things to do. But as you develop these relationships, this is going to be by far, and I'm sure John and Liana will agree, this is going to be by far the best way for you to close sales, because when the referral comes to you, what percentage would you say you're closing, Liana, when it comes from the doctor?
It's pretty much a sale. It just
Yes,
depends which carrier they're going into, but it's
absolutely.
yeah.
So 95 to 100%, they're sold. And why are they sold? Because their doctor told them to contact you, because you're the person that works with their doctor. And if you're a broker and you have more than one company that you're working with, that's a plus, because you, as Liana just said, it doesn't matter. Either way, one of those companies, it's going to be a done deal. So that's less time for you. You know, you might even plan sometimes when the pandemic is over, you may be meeting them at the doctor's office. So it's close. Yeah, I mean, it's just a good winning situation. Um, I would,
Hey,
of
I
course,
just wanted
suggest,
to say something. I think for me, what I try to do is when I develop a relationship with the provider's office and I have a contact that I feel comfortable with, I like to find out from them, what is it that they need from me? You know, what is the strategy of their office? Some offices are looking to grow. Other offices, they may just want to maximize their patient base. So let's say they have a lot of Medicaid individuals. And of course, they're not happy. You know, they're on original Medicare with the Medicaid and MMA plan, which most doctors do not prefer. So I work with them to see, you know, is this something you're interested in, maybe moving some of these patients over into a Medicare Advantage program, or if they work with commercial plans. Do you have people that are, you know, retiring, turning 65, that obviously you want to keep them as a patient? You know, these are all the different plan options that I can offer you. I can make sure that I give them what's their best fit and have them, and you retain them as a patient. So you have to find out from them, what is it that they want. A lot of them have a favorite plan that I don't want to say push, but you know, that's their number
right.
one. So
Mhm.
I actually, I was working a doctor's office for a couple of the carriers, and it happened to be that I developed a relationship with their Humana rep. And their Humana rep then got promoted and transferred out of state. I soon get a phone call from Humana saying, hey, you know, the agent that you were working with at that office highly recommended that you become the Humana rep for them as well. So for me, you know, that was huge. It was coming from, you know, a coworker. Another thing that you might want to try to do is reach out to MSOs and or the carriers and see if they have doctor's offices that maybe some of their own W-2s are not working. Just last week, I got a call from one of the newer Medicare Advantage plans, because they have, say, under 10 W-2 agents. And they have a pretty extensive network. And they say, we have a brand new doctor. He needs a bilingual rep, and it's in this part of town. Would you be willing to be their rep? So I said, okay, what plans do they take? And they told me 3 different carriers. I said, great, I'm contracted with all 3. And we had a meeting with the doctor, the office manager, the provider marketing. I mean, it was a whole gamut of people. So you can get referrals from the MSOs or the carriers, because they need help in developing the relationships with those doctors, because they want more sales.
Right. More patients. That's what it's
Exactly.
all about.
Let me
Yep.
throw this out there too, Faye. When we talk about, is this a year round or an annual election period activity? Totally agree with you. It's year round. But one of the things to consider is a lot of people get caught up with the frenetic activity during AEP and don't necessarily realize that 60% of the business is written outside of that time period through a special election period. And what we have with a physician is a source, if we go straight to the primary care as an avenue for this, that physician has 3 different ways of basically influencing your business throughout the year with the patients they encounter. Because if you're in a period like now or getting into the first quarter of the year, the heavy utilizers of medications are a drain on the office because they're asking for all kinds of questions. You can help in that area, and that office, that doctor's more than willing to have someone who's competent professional in that area to address it. But they're also the folks that really see the T65s right away, because unless their practice is centered just on the Medicare population, they're the ones that know when people turn 65. And when people move from one area to another, what do? They have to look for a new doc. And in that circumstance, you're also in the avenue of, hey, I got a SEP for that too. We've got to move. So these folks are also a key identifier of those folks that have a year-round enrollment opportunity for you. And I think that's part of it, that yeah, you're not just prepping for one time of the year. You've got the rest of the year where you're going to have a recognition of need by that provider that, hey, I have people that need help. This person can do it. Let's create that relationship and do it. And then you have to demonstrate that you can. And I think to y'all's point a little bit earlier, the only way they remember that is if you're in contact with them consistently. You're delivering that piece of value, and then you see that year-round activity, not just to build for one time period. But I don't know about you guys, but my electric company has this funny thing about I got to pay my bill in the summer too. So we need to make certain that we create a continuous flow of that. I had an office a few years ago, 4 docs in it. Um, they made my house payment every month simply because I was in constant contact with them, created some different marketing pieces for them. It made life a lot easier knowing that you have those contacts in the community that can help you too. So a big difference for year-round activity.
Yes. And generally, the doctors that you have relationships with, those are the ones that, if you are doing like community events, they will, help you to purchase um, giveaways, or they will be a speaker for, a particular event. So it becomes a true partnership. And it is a way, and so just to make it real simple, because I like to just think of things simply. To make it real simple, once you've developed this relationship, you can look to get at least, if depending on the area and how well the relationship develops, you can just about say you're going to get 1 or 2 referrals out of that office every month. And at some offices, you're going to get 1 or 2 referrals every week. And it may not be every week, but think about what that does to your total for the year rather than wait for AEP. So the next slide talks about me, and I'm not going to waste up your time telling you about me. You know who I am. My name is Faye, and I sell Medicare plans. My podcast is I Sell Medicare Plans. My email is fayhorton9 at I Sell Medicare Plans. And the website is I Sell Medicare Plans. So this is now question and answer time. If you have not put any questions in the chat, there were some comments in chat, and I think they've been answered. But if you have other questions now, I'm going to stop sharing for a moment. Well, let me show you one other thing that I want to tell you about. This is what I have coming up. I know you're always wondering, well, what is she going to do next? She's always doing something. What is she going to do next? I have an ebook that's going to be available March 8th. So that's a little over a week from now, little over a week. And the title of the book is Provider Marketing Made Easy. Remember, I like easy and simple. So if you're interested in the book, I'll send you a link. You'll have it in the group. This particular presentation was private for the I Sell Medicare Plans group. So anything that's coming out of it will be in the group. Liana has a book that's already out. Liana, would you tell us how we can get that book? I can't hear you. Liana,
We got you muted,
you're
Liana.
on mute.
Okay,
Okay.
I'm so sorry. So the book is called, Are You Prepared for Successful Medicare AEP? What are your greatest fears? And even though it's aimed at AEP, like everyone is saying, you know, the earlier you start in the year, the better off that you're going to be, because you'll be up and running and AEP will just flow so much smoother. But you can get the book at my website. It's www.5starmedicarecoach.com. And it's the number 5 and then the word star medicarecoach.com.
And John has such a long list of things that he's involved in and things that he's doing. I'm going to let him tell you what he does. A lot of seminars and webinars. Tell us what you got coming up and what you've done, John.
Well, we actually did a webinar last week on provider marketing, including some detail on some personal leave behind for you, because many times when you approach different places, the person you need to talk to isn't there and you kind of want to mark your territory. But we do these on a number of different topics, from working with providers to working with the faith-based organizations in your community, the different centers of influence, how to make certain that your retail investment, if you're working a Walmart or a different pharmacy during AEP, how that can be a year-round piece for you as well. We list them on our website at Premier Marketing, or what's premiersmi.com. So we have a library of the past presentations in there and a listing that enables you to go on and experience them live. Yesterday, we did a Medicare 101. Today was a presentation on dual special needs programs. Those different types of things that go beyond just a product training. We do those, but also how you can get in front of the folks that you need to without spending a whole bunch of money and address the needs of the plan. How do you get in front of people that want to buy it? And so we do a ton of that as well. And it's all available without cost. We don't charge for the webinars or anything. They ask you to register. You might get a call, but that's it. So it's an opportunity to look at and perhaps in some areas review and expand upon what you're doing. We used to do a bunch of them live. New world, the new normal here. A lot of them are virtual. But if you think about it, particularly when we talk about today's topic, you have a lot of the physicians that are doing the visits virtually. So they have that experience, and many of their patients are trained to do so. We're actually doing a webcast for a medical group here in Texas for all the providers, talking about low income subsidy and how we can help them with that to address the providers, and then doing that same presentation to their patient base virtually, so we can tell them how we can help them with the cost of their medications. So I think a part
I'm
of
glad
it
you
is,
mentioned virtual, John, because
yep,
that was something that I overlooked, and that was with the pandemic and the way the practices are right now. You may not, as agents or brokers, be able to go in to these providers' offices or facilities, although things are kind of changing probably over the next couple of months. It may open up again, but there is still nothing to prohibit you from offering a virtual luncheon meeting. You can have lunch delivered and everybody in the office sits around. They're watching you virtually on a Zoom conference or a WebEx conference for about 20 minutes. Always try to keep it less than a half an hour, because even though offices close sometimes for 2 hours, the staff doesn't have 2 hours for lunch. So try to keep any presentation that you're going to do with them under a half an hour. Keep it quick, simple. Give the information that you have. Say, listen, I'll run by and drop it off at the door or mail it to them, whatever. But virtual meetings are a good way to stay in touch with your offices. I'm going to stop the screen share now. Oh, and
I have
John,
one
if
last thing, Faye.
Okay, we're not going away. I'm just going to stop the
Oh,
screen share. John, if you would post the link for your webinars in your library into the Facebook group, if you don't mind. Thank you. And go ahead, Liana, while I check to see who is.
okay. So here is a way that if you're seriously considering doing physician marketing, that you can maybe kick it off. I do, for all the holidays, for Valentine's, I made cupcakes and I made like little red baskets with um, candies and different things. If I can't get to that location, I mail them a Valentine's card. But there's one event that's coming up later in March, and it's actually March 30th. It's on my phone here. I have a copy of it. March 30th is Doctor's Day. It's National Doctor's Day. I have actually gone to provider offices and brought them a gift, and they're like, I didn't even know it was Doctor's Day. You're the first person that ever said that to me, and they don't expect that. So if you want to kick off your provider marketing, think of some good marketing gimmicks, some gifts, something that you could bring to them, and just let them know that you're thinking of them and that you're interested in working with them and helping them grow their practice.
Thank you. Thanks, Liana. That's a great idea. Valeria, did I say that correctly?
Yes, that's right. Thank you.
You
Hi,
have a question.
this is golden. Thank you so much. I'm learning a lot.
Good, good.
I'm from Puerto Rico, and over there we do a lot of marketing for providers, and providers refer a lot to agents. But since I moved here to Colorado, it's been a struggle for me because I don't have access. They don't let me even talk sometimes. So I would like for any of you to kind of explain or give me ideas on how to break that ice and get through the door, because I don't even know what to say when I go to the offices and try to introduce myself. But it's like, well, and they're like, yeah, we're gonna let them know. Obviously the receptionist doesn't let you really go a lot more. So I don't even know what to bring, or like what that first day that you go into the office, what do you do? What's the process?
Are you a captive agent or an independent agent?
I was, and now I am an independent, like a
You're
broker. Yeah.
independent now. Okay. So if we can quickly give you some suggestions, I'll let Liana and John give you their thoughts on that. But I would start, first of all, by identifying, and one thing that you might want to do is There's still snow and ice on the ground up there in Colorado now. But pick 5 is a good number for me. Pick 5 offices that you want to target and start with those 5. The
Okay.
first thing I would ask when I call the office is, and sometimes I kind of, I don't say, may I speak to the office manager? I say, good morning. Are you the office manager, or may I speak with her or him? And that kind of makes the person feel like they're important too, because they could be, they could be recognized as the office manager. So that kind of starts it off with the tone like you want to know everybody in the office, because usually if you say that, they're going to say, no, this is Liana, and I'm the receptionist, you know. So, oh, hi. So my name is Faye Horton, and I'm a local independent broker for Medicare plans here in the area. And I'd like to just have a moment to introduce myself to the office manager or the doctor. Which would be easiest for me to get to? Or what is the best time? Or when is a good time to call? Or any of those questions that will lead you. And yes, it's a series of questions, and you're going to ask another question. They're going to answer that. You're going to ask another question until you find out the information that you want. Are they allowing people to come into the office now? Do you know?
Not, a lot of them are not.
I know
A
they're
lot of
not
my
here, but I
offices
don't
are
know
not
out
allowing it.
there.
Oh, I'm
Uh,
sorry.
I was
Yeah. Well, over here, yeah, there's some restrictions. I haven't done it, to be honest with you. What I do is mostly if I go to a client's, like for example, last week I was at a client's house and he lived in this senior housing facility. I talked to the office manager over there and say, hey, I'm a broker for Medicare. Do you have anyone helping you with the residents? So that's what I do, but then I don't follow up very often, so I know they pretty much forget about me. So yeah, but I haven't tried any providers, any doc like physicians or anything like that yet.
okay.
I have a
Well,
suggestion for you, Valeria,
go
if I
ahead,
may.
John.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, Faye, I stepped on you there. But one
No,
of the
that's
things
okay.
that
Go ahead.
you immediately make evident is an attribute you bring that I don't,
Mhm.
and that many times the offices don't have either. And that's someone who's competent to explain the different circumstances for the patients in another language.
Okay.
I imagine you're, bilingual, I'm
Yeah.
assuming, but I don't speak Spanish. And here in Texas, the majority of the population is of a Hispanic nature. I should have listened to my Berlitz tapes years ago, but I didn't. But if you take that and follow up on what Faye mentioned with her approach and say, and by the way, I can help you with the folks that speak Spanish. And sometimes if you're speaking to someone who doesn't speak Spanish, they recognize that value right away. And if you're
Mhm.
able then to do, I would suggest like a resume or some kind of leave behind on who you are. I'll put
Mhm.
a kick a piece over to Faye or download it in the group with your permission, Faye, about a piece we use as a leave behind, because it
Okay.
talks about who, what you do, and how you're able to help. And sometimes when you go into the office and that person you need to talk to, either the administrator or whomever, or leave a copy with that gatekeeper, that's a great idea as well. It introduces you, and that gives you then another reason to follow up. A lot of
Right.
times we'll do a one-shot pony, and then it's like, I didn't get anything out of it. What am I going to do? Well, I'm going to call and I'm going to follow up. Hey, did you get your information about me and how I can help your practice? So it's a natural
Yeah.
entree into another conversation. And
Mhm.
you're different than everybody else. And an
You
additional
certainly
thing
have
that
some
I'm sure
pluses.
they're going to talk about is send a handwritten thank you note. Even if you haven't
Mhm.
talked to anybody, send it to the office and say, hey, I appreciate the opportunity to offer my services to you and your patients. This is what I can do. And I look forward to our next conversation. So you set it up in your queue kind of that way to do it without being pushy, without being, hey, I'm Herb Tarlick in the plaid jacket. You want to buy a watch. It doesn't work that way. I think
Right.
that would really help you because in all areas, we don't have staff that speaks multiple languages, and that's a challenge
Mhm.
for a lot of people.
Yeah, for sure.
Thanks, John, and please post that
Yep,
leave behind in the group so that everybody has an opportunity, and you don't have to leave it up forever if you don't, if you're not comfortable,
it's
but
good for
post
me.
it in the group. And I know that Liana, being a broker, has information that shows the different carriers, right, Liana, that you work with. So
Yes, I have it listed on my, I call it a rack card. And it
yes,
has all of the different, well, not all, but because I have like 11 of them, but there's quite a few
the
listed.
major ones,
Yeah.
right?
One thing that I started not too long ago is I went back to the physicians that I work with that I have a good relationship with, and I asked them to do a testimonial for me. So I created a form where I basically asked them, what do you recommend about working with Liana to help your Medicare patients? And I said, just write like 3 or 4 sentences. And I typed it into a form, and I keep those. So if I go to a new doctor's office, I basically provide that to them and say, look, this is something I have experience in. These are some of the other offices that I've been working with, and this is their feedback.
That's a great idea too. So all of these things would be able to help you all. Um, are there any other questions? Let me check the chat to make sure that we've answered. Liana has posted the link for her book. John is going to post the link for the webinar in the group, so we're not losing anything. I thought I saw something. Somebody said they had to leave or something. I don't know what happened to it.
I have
It
another
popped up
question.
on, okay,
Um,
go ahead.
you guys mentioned something about finding providers that are new or I can't remember the term, but like not in big chains of providers. How do we know that? Like, where do you look for that information?
A good way that I didn't mention before, and I don't know if the others have used this method also, is I listen to my customers. When you have customers and you're writing business and you find that, say 3 out of 5 all go to this one doctor or to this one clinic, then that's someplace you want to look into. But to know how when they were in business, there are several ways you can find out. You can go to their website. There's generally some information about when it started, or if it's a corporation or an LLC, you can check the state to see when the business started. So there are several ways that you can do that. I don't know if anybody else has any other ways to
Yeah, I'm asking because
find
usually
out.
here in my area, it's either Banner Health, UC Health, and that's about it. So they're all part of a big, hospital or big network.
Hmm. And that just might be the situation, and you may have to work differently, but then your focus might be on the pharmacies, the eye doctors, the dentists, the gyms. And I can remember in Orlando, we spent a lot of time at the gyms, at the various gyms. And you get those little small bottles, the small bottle of water, not the 16 ounce, but the small bottle of water. And you go there when you know they're having the Silver Sneakers class, and you give everybody one of those little bottles of water, and you take a rubber band or take something and you put your business card to it. I mean, they're exercising, so they enjoy getting that attention. And you'd be surprised at how many people will actually fill out a permission to call slip because not all of the Silver Sneaker participants are going to be in the carrier that you might want. They may want to change carriers. They still want the gym, but they could be in Renew Active from United Healthcare and just go to this gym. So once you find out the gyms and when those classes are, that's another, you might have to look at it a little differently than primary care physicians if all of your doctors or most of your doctors within a certain radius are tied to large hospital facilities. And then I would not give up on the hospital facilities, but just
Okay.
keep digging deeper to find out how do you get to the right contact
Okay.
to find out what you can do to help them. Always be willing to ask, as Liana said, or John said, what can I do to help you? What issues are you having? And it could be something, with billing, which you don't know anything about and you don't handle and you don't get involved. But because you represent that carrier, you can find out who should be contacting that doctor. It's just be willing to help in some way and they won't forget you.
Let me throw this out there that it really worked for me in the past as well. And I think it applies to your situation, Valeria. When you run across an individual and they have a primary care physician that's in one of these large groups, and you enroll them, one of the things that I did with some frequency and great success was actually call that doctor's office. I didn't care about the size of the panel of the physicians that were available or whatever it was. And I asked to be put into the doctor's voicemail. And in that voicemail, I would tell them, hey, my name's John Dubas. I really appreciate the fact that you're taking care of some of my clients. They say really good things about how you treat them and the way that you do business with them and help them with their health circumstances. And I just wanted to call and thank you. If there's anything I could ever do for you, my cell phone number is 214-450-9639. And you'd be surprised how often it doesn't happen much for these docs. It's someone always asking for something from them. Someone calling and saying, hey, thank you. You're taking care of my people. I really appreciate it. And if I can help you take care of your other patients, let me know. And it's a great way then that regardless of the size of the practice, if you've got multi numbers of physicians in a particular location, they meet upon occasion and they'll talk about you. Hey, I got a call from this insurance agent and they were actually thanking me for taking care of their people. And that can be a huge difference maker simply because you're differentiating yourself from the herd and you're doing something in honesty. You're thanking them for taking care of your people.
Oh my God, that's a great idea. I already have like 5 that I want to do that.
I would. And that
Another
made me
one,
a ton of money and it helped me take care of a lot of people.
Mhm.
another thing is that you want to, each time you enroll someone in the doctor's office, you want to call the staff and let them know that you've enrolled someone and to give them their name. And one of the questions you're going to ask once you do get to talk to somebody at the office, and this is very important, how long does it take for a new patient appointment before a new patient can get an appointment? Because this you can relay now to your customer that you're trying to enroll and trying to get them to switch their doctor to the doctor that you're working with. Listen, I can get you into this office with a phone call. That could make a difference. You're effective March 1st. Today is February 25th. I can get you in March 2nd. Let's try for it. Pick up the phone, call them while you're with the member. I'm enrolling a new member for March 1st effective date. Can you make an appointment for her for March 2nd? You're helping everybody. Everybody wins in that situation. So
And that's particularly
always,
important now too, Faye, because if you're changing physicians, you have a number of docs that have closed their panel to new patients at this
yes,
time. So it's a big difference. My doctor retired and it took me a week and a half until I found a physician that met my qualifications, what I was looking for in the doc, but also then one who could see me and how quickly it could be done. That's a great point.
Thank you. Is there anything else? Anybody else got any questions? I really do hope that this has been helpful. And Liana and John, thank you so much. Your information is invaluable. Let us know, make sure that the group knows. Liana, post also in the group how to get your book. Because within
okay.
Liana's book, I need to just tell everybody this. Within the book, it's about AEP, but she talks about provider marketing because part of her goal for the AEP depends on provider marketing. So that's a piece of her entire strategy for AEP. And it should be a piece of your strategy, not only for AEP, but all year long. Because if you have 3 or 4 doctor's offices and they're consistently sending you 1 or 2 members, new patients a week, then you are hitting the goals that you need. You need 392 Medicare Advantage members to make residual income of $100,000. So start with number 1 today. Thank you all for attending. It's been great. I've enjoyed it so much. We always go over. I'm so sorry. But it's not past anybody's bedtime. Have a good evening.
Thank you
Faye.
so much. Good luck to everybody.
You bet.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Faye. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Miss
Oh, you're
Faye.
welcome. You're so welcome. Thank you all.